Hey folks, standing in front of a hole in the ground here that we dug because I'm getting ready to fix a pipe that broke between my well and the house. And I wanted to show you how to do it because it is a job that you can do yourself. But it all started the other day when I noticed a big river of water running through my yard, which was clear indication that I had a leak somewhere. So then I have to find where is the leak. So you follow the water back uphill, which probably is obvious because water's not going to flow uphill. It's going to start uphill and go downhill. And then we just took a guess as where the water was and started digging. But either way, we're going to show you what we did. We're going to show you how we found it. And then I'm going to show you all the steps to cut out the old pipe and put the new one in. It's a lot of fun. It's very satisfying to do it ourselves. Let's get rolling. You can see I've got this big hole full of water here. We had to use the water last night, but with all that leak, it fills this up. So I've got this sump pump that I bought from Harbor Freight a few years ago. This thing's come in handy. It's about $100 because I've had to fix other leaks before. So I'm just going to start draining this out, and then I'll show you the rest of the process once we get this water out of here. Plug that in. And I'm just feeding the water to a spot away from us in the yard. And this will take us 15 minutes and we'll be good to go. You can see we've got the pipe exposed now, drained out all the water. I can see we also have the wire that the electricity goes to the well pump. And hopefully we didn't damage that while we were digging. But you can see how big the hole is over here. And that's because we took a guess where the leak was. We dug this way, turned the water on. This was yesterday, and we could see water coming from this side of the wall. We had dug the hole, so then we continued to hole this way, and that's how we found the pipe. So what I'm going to do now that we've got this pipe exposed, I already know it was leaking right at this joint here. I'm going to clean it off, and you'll be able to see it a little bit easier, but there's a splice right there. That thing's cracked. I can even see that these pipes don't come in. They're not perfectly in line, so that's probably why it happened. But I'm going to clean off the top of this pipe and then get into the next step about cutting this apart and splicing in the new section. Here's the coupling joint that we're going to use once we get everything dried out in there. And you can see here that this thing extends a couple of inches, 3 or 4 inches. So what this allows us to do is cut a section of pipe, put this in here, and then expand this out so that it fills the crack in the pipe or the part in the pipe that we cut out. And the way this works is there's an O-ring. This thing unscrews here. We don't need to, but there's an O-ring in there. I'll do it anyway. There's an O-ring in there, which keeps this thing sealed very well. And I need to do that. And you're just going to do it hand tight, which it says there. But you want to make sure you've got your O-ring in there. So I do recommend you take it apart, do that, and then just hand tighten it. And here's the coupling that we're going to use. That's going to go on here, and when we get to the installation, you'll see why. So what I'm going to show you is how to glue this together. This is the pack of primer and cement that you can get. I think this was $12. It comes with both cans in there, the can of primer and the can of cement. And both of these are critical to glue the parts together, which we're going to glue in the ground there. First thing you want to do, the instructions don't require it, but I like to take a piece of sandpaper, and since I'm going to be gluing this together here at the end, I'm just going to take some sandpaper and just scuff up the end of this a little bit. It'll make the primer and the glue adhere a little bit better, but I'm going to do this on the inside of this coupling here, and I'll do it on both sides because eventually I'll do that. And we're just taking the shine off of the PVC. Just like with anything, when you try to glue it, if it's too shiny, it doesn't work. Or when you're trying to paint, and the paint doesn't adhere if the surface you're painting is too shiny. So this just scuffs it up a little bit. And then once you're done with that, just get a rag or your shirt and clean out all of the sandpaper dust that you just caused. And then same on this end. Now we're going to glue this together, and if you can see in here, there's a little ring in the middle, and that just shows where the pipes are going to hit in the middle. Also creates a stopping point when you push this together. And what I've done here on this part is I've marked the outside to show how deep this is supposed to go, because I want to make sure I put enough glue all the way in that area so we get a good gluing path. And this all has to be done kind of quickly because we're going to put the primer on there and the glue on there, and we don't want things to harden or start to gel up before we're done with the process. Go. Start with a coat of primer on the inside of this, and remember, this kind of makes the PVC nice and soggy. I'm going to take another coat, and you see I'm wearing these gloves here so that if I get it on my skin, I don't really care. So just rub it all the way around there. That looks good. I'm going to do one more coat on the inside of that. I'm going to let any excess drip out here. Now I'm going to take this cement and put a nice coat on the outside of that, all the way around. And I'm going to put a thin coat on the inside of this. See I'm doing that? Now that those are together, I'm going to take them, push them together all the way till the bottom's out, and then turn it a quarter turn. I'm just going to hold that for a second. There. So now I'm going to close up all my cement and my primer, and I'm going to just wipe off the excess on the outside of this, and wipe off the excess on the outside of that. Then I'm going to go set this in a little warmer environment so that this cures nicely. So by the time we need it later, it's nice and hard. Here we are with the pipe exposed, and I saw the water spraying out at this joint here, and I can see the crack too. In fact, I can even feel the crack there. So this is where the problem is. Here's the splice part we're going to use. So we're going to have to cut out a section of pipe and put this in. I've already shown how this thing will expand so that we can get it in there. Now I've measured the length of this thing, and it's 11 inches, and that's the part that we installed earlier, 11 inches. But each end that I cut off is going to go in here 1 1/4 inches. So what we have to do here is, and this is one of those projects where you better cut in the right spot. So I think what I want to do is cut this 10.5 inches, 10.5 inches wide. Even though this won't fully fit, I think I can lift this part up, get this in, and then this will have enough space to get the next section in. That might be confusing, but watch me do this and we will be good to go. And for cutting, I've got one of these PVC cutters. Like I said earlier, I've done this project several times, and this has come in handy. And this is just a ratcheting cutter. You just put it around it, and that blade just cuts nicely through there, so we'll get a nice square edge for this project. All right, so knowing that I'm going to cut it about like that, approximately, I'm first going to mark there. I want to cut right there. I said I wanted to cut 10.5 inches, so let's measure what that is. Ten and a half, so it's going to be about there. There we go. Wow, look at that release. These things are under a lot of pressure, and look where this one's angled. That one wants to be that way in its relaxed form, and this pipe is nowhere close to that. So that was the problem. There's too much pressure there, and I don't really have a good solution. And there's a bunch of residual water in those pipes. So we're going to let those drain out. And then let's just see here. There we go. With it cut on each end, I'm going to, just like I did earlier, sand the surface a little bit just to break up the smooth shininess of it so that the primer and the glue adhere better. Even though it doesn't say you need to do this, it's usually a good practice. And then on this one too. All right, we're ready to go. I've already tested this out a little bit that this can fit in and I'll have enough space over there. So I'm gonna start with the purple primer like earlier and start on the inside diameter of the socket, if you will, of this one. Then the outside diameter here. Make sure you get all the way around it. And then one more coat on the inside diameter, and you can see that I've got it pointed down so that any excess drips out. Then bring over the cement. Quickly, hold that. Trade. Now we're gonna put one coat of cement there, and then another light coat on the inside. Again, pointing down so that any excess drips off. I'm gonna jam these together. Get in there. And then turn it 90 degrees and just hold them for 30 seconds. Remember, I cut 10.5 inches. That looks to be just about perfect because I have a little bit of space there. This thing extends about 2.5 inches. You don't want this at its furthest extension in the final position. You want it as close to the middle as you can. So this is about right.
A lot of primer with me.
As you can see, these aren't aligned. That's what caused the crack in the first place, which is bothersome, but I don't have a choice. I'm not going to dig out this entire run. So we're just going to have to work with it and hope this lasts another 25 years. So I'm going to start with the inside of this and make sure I get it all the way around. Push down on it so that the excess comes out. Unfortunately, I see water coming back out. So I hope that's not... There, now the cement. Nice liberal coat on the outside, and then a little bit on the inside here. And then, without pulling the other one out, I'm gonna extend this until it bottoms out. Turn it 90 degrees, and hopefully you can see my left hand over here. I was pushing the other direction so I didn't accidentally loosen or pull out the first one I did. And that 90-degree turn or some sort of a turn is helpful because it helps smear the glue across all the surfaces. And that's what you want. You want that glue to be perfectly applied all the way around all the surfaces. I think we're in pretty good shape here. So at that point, we're just going to let that cure for a couple hours. We're probably 60 degrees outside, and according to the directions, at 60 degrees, in 15 minutes, this will be set up pretty good, pretty well, I should say. No pun intended. But then at 2 hours, the full cure is done. So I'm not going to turn on the water for 2 hours at least, and maybe even longer, just to not risk anything. All right, here we are a few hours later. Got the water turned on. This thing's dry as bone, as expected, but feels really satisfying. And now we'll have fresh water back in the house. Only thing we've got left to do is to replace the dirt in the hole. Make sure you just be gentle around this thing. I'm going to pack the dirt underneath it first before I pile all this weight on it. Don't want to add any extra stress there, but once the dirt's supported underneath, all the weight on the top will just be just like it was. All told, other than the pump, which I already had, I spent about 30 or 35 bucks on the splice, on the glue, and that little coupling at the end. So it's a really easy job as far as that goes. You just have to get access to your broken pipe. I hope that was helpful. If you've got questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Take a look at the rest of my channel. I've got all kinds of other DIY stuff. I like doing things myself and saving money. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. See, the pump just pumps through this hose, and I've got this leading away to somewhere well away from the project so the water doesn't come back in here. What is he doing? Does he know the boots are to keep water out? I guess not. Well, I guess there's one of them born every minute, as they say.